Hey guys, today I've got a hell of a story for you because today I'm going to reveal Elon Musk's secret to making money. Now, it's one of the oldest ways of making money in history. In fact, his method of profiting is just as ancient as prostitution. What could that be, you ask? Well, the answer is much simpler than you may have thought. You see, the key to Elon's success and becoming the richest man in the world is as simple as lying, conning, and straight up tricking people into giving him their money with wild, outlandish, too good to be true claims. Elon has truly performed a masterclass in the art of lying over his career, and that's why today I'm introducing the Elon Musk 2026 Lies and BS Tiers List. I'm gonna walk you guys through a few of the top lies Elon has made so far this year, and I will give each of them a rating from S to C, with S tier being a lie so ridiculous and self-serving that it's clearly a complete fantasy, while C being a plausible prediction that's based in reality. So without wasting any more of your time, I'm gonna jump right into this with the very first Elon lie, which is flying cars. Okay, first let's get started on the flying car, aka the Tesla Roadster. Sounds like something straight out of the Jetsons, and if you're old enough to remember that show, drop a comment because I don't even know if the younger crowd would have any idea what I'm talking about. Now, before we get to the flying part, let's go over a few basics. Musk unveiled the second generation Tesla Roadster back in 2017. That was 9 years ago. In those 9 years, Tesla has not built a single production Roadster. You can't buy one, you can only reserve one, and Tesla has been taking deposits since 2017. The base deposit is $50K, and people have been handing Tesla real money for a car that doesn't exist. Now, when is it due to arrive, you might ask? Elon set a date for the reveal. April 1st, 2026. Yes, April Fool's Day, which really makes you wonder. Now, the date came and went with nothing happening. It's now pushed to August, and I'm willing to bet any of you Elon fanboys in the comments that is not going to happen. So, before we go ahead and assume that this is another Elon fantasy, let's actually take a step back and think about it. Elon owns Tesla, and he also owns SpaceX. Theoretically, he would be the perfect guy to pull off the flying car. So let's give it an honest chance, let's take a look, and let's see if he's able to do it or not. Now, to be clear, the claim we're talking about here is not a drone or some sort of one-seat hovercopter. It's a car that also drives day to day, as well as lifting off and flying. That's the promise here. So, here's how Elon says it works. In his words, the Roadster will have a tank of super compressed air where the back seats go, feeding a thruster nozzle that's built into the car. These thrusters are pointed at the ground, and when they fire, the car would theoretically lift off. Now, problem number one is the tank. Compressed air runs out. The tank empties quickly and needs to refill. A tank small enough to fit behind the seats holds enough to lift a 2-ton car for maybe a few seconds before it's spent, which gives you a brief hop rather than any sort of real flight. Tesla knows this too, because at their own X takeover event, Tesla's VP of Vehicle Engineering admitted that the liftoff feature is one of the hardest parts of the entire program. Now, there's a second catch that comes along with these thrusters as well. You see, they run at over 1,000 PSI, whereas your car tires sit at about 35. So you're pointing an enormous blast of pressure straight down at the road in the middle of traffic. Now, to put thousands of PSI in perspective, an industrial pressure washer runs at 2,000 to 4,000 PSI, and that's enough to slice open human skin and strip asphalt bare. So, imagine something like that, strong enough to lift up a 2-ton car aimed straight at loose gravel and grit. You would be firing that stuff off like a buckshot. At close range, that would be dangerous enough to have debris lacerate your skin or even blind someone on the sidewalk. No regulator on Earth is ever going to sign off on a consumer vehicle that's pointing something that dangerous at a public road. Also, the gimmick was hiding the thrusters behind the license plate, which happens to be the one thing that the law requires you to keep visible at all times. Now, is a flying day-to-day vehicle possible in general? Yes. Right now, companies are flight testing electric aircraft that take off vertically with a person inside, and that's real. Those are aircraft, though. They fly, and that's all they do. Musk is promising something much harder. A car you drive on a daily, park in your garage, and it also flies. And doing both is the part that's so brutal. Because what makes a good car also makes a bad aircraft. So the flying, manned day-to-day vehicle is 100% possible, but one that is also street legal and drives as well as it flies is the complete lie. So here's where we land on the Roadster. The specs on the car look incredible. It's got over 1,100 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds, 620 miles of range. If it's anywhere close to that, it's going to be one of the best EVs ever built. Minus the flying part, the car is legitimately a beast. He didn't need to make anything else up, but that's Elon, guys. He just can't help himself but to add a ridiculous sci-fi twist on everything that he does. So sadly, the Roadster, when it finally comes out, it is not going to fly like the Jetsons. The best case is it's going to do a pointless little hop, and even that probably won't happen because a car that fires rocket thrusters at the pavement near pedestrians is never going to be approved as street legal. So it won't fly, it won't hop, it won't do anything special. The Roadster is real, the specs are great, but the flying is completely made up. So, due to the underlying tech, a quick hop, being physically possible, I'm not going to put this one in the S tier. Elon took a genuinely great car and he slapped a lie on top of it to try and sound futuristic and pump up Tesla's valuations. Anyone who looks into this for even a couple of hours like I did can see that the Roadster will absolutely not fly, full stop. This is an A tier lie. Let's move on to the next one. On the Moonshots podcast in January 2026, Elon said the following: "I've long thought that longevity or semi-immortality is an extremely solvable problem, and I don't think it's a particularly hard problem." He makes this sound as easy as correcting a few lines of code in your DNA. His words, and I quote, "You're pre-programmed to die, and so all you have to do is change the program and you will live longer." So Elon says all you have to do is swap out the bad code, and as long as we've got someone as smart as him around to figure it all out, this is basically an easy job. Don't worry guys, Elon's here, he's gonna handle death for us. Except, Elon isn't going to figure it out himself. He says AI is going to figure it out. And it's not like we've ever heard a promise like that before. You see, his theory is that aging runs on one hidden master clock. And he said, quote, "When you consider the fact that your body is extremely synchronized in its age, the clock must be incredibly obvious. Nobody has an old left arm and a young right arm. Why is that? What's keeping them all in sync?" So his pitch is that once the AI hits superintelligence, it spots that hidden clock, flips it back, reprograms you, and you pretty much live forever. He says, once we get there, the solution will appear, quote, obvious. Now, like all of these ridiculous AI claims, it doesn't actually work like that. Even if super intelligent AGI showed up tomorrow morning, there is no single clock to flip. I looked into this, and it turns out that aging is controlled by multiple separate processes, a whole stack of different things breaking down in your body over time, and no single one of them is the sole cause. So the AI doesn't get to walk in and find one obvious fix. It would have to solve dozens of hard problems that all feed into aging together. Now, I want to show you a study about just one of those problems, and it came out this year. It's called Somatic Mutations Impose an Entropic Upper Bound on Human Lifespan. It's published in the journal NPG Aging in July 2026. If you guys want to check it out, I'll post it in the description. Now, it focuses on one specific piece of aging: the mutations that build up in your DNA as you get older. Quick explainer on what that means. Every time a cell in your body divides, it has to copy your entire DNA, billions of letters long, and every so often, it makes a typo. These typos are mutations. They accumulate in your cells your whole life, and your body has no way to go back and clean these things up. So here's what the study found. If you took a human being and eliminated every other cause of aging and you just wiped it all out, that person could theoretically live 1,759 years. But once you add in the mutations, that number collapses to a median of about 156 years, with a range from 146 to 194. The reason is your brain and your heart. Those cells barely divide and never get replaced, so the damage from the mutations just piles up there with nowhere to go. Your liver can swap out worn cells and keep running for thousands of years in their model, but your brain cannot. So even if you fixed everything else related to aging, this one problem alone caps human life somewhere around 200 years. And right now, nobody has any idea how to fix it, because unlike other parts of aging, mutations cannot be reversed with anything we currently know of. So Elon's fantasy AGI god doesn't just need to find one obvious clock and pull it back. It would have to solve dozens of aging problems, including the mutation problem that no one currently has a solution for. That does not sound like something getting solved in our lifetime. On top of that, there's no real evidence that superintelligence or AGI is arriving anytime soon. So what Elon is describing here is a fantasy machine solving a problem nobody can solve on a timeline nobody can support. As Ed Zitron would say, it's pretty much on par with the Tooth Fairy. Now, if you want to see the actual state of anti-aging right now, just take a look at Brian Johnson. The guy spends over $2 million a year chasing this stuff. He takes blood transfusions from his own son. He's reported developing an autoimmune issue that may well have come from his own experiments. Personally, I think the guy looks terrible. He looks like a ghost. He avoids the sun. He thinks the sun ages you. I mean, guys, this is the best money can currently buy, and it's clearly not working. So this is another vague, ridiculous claim from Elon Musk, and this one serves to pump up his AI company by selling a fantasy that AI is going to defeat death. It isn't happening in our lifetimes, guys. Human lifespan is slowly extending, that part is true, but we are nowhere near immortality, and the first human being to live 1,000 years has certainly not been born yet. That puts this one at the top of the S tier as complete and total fabrication. It's a shameless dangle of the oldest dream humans have ever had, never dying, aimed at people who wouldn't even know where to start fact-checking it. I had a hard time with this one myself, but the lies keep escalating from here, because the next one is Elon promising to drill into human skulls, install a chip, and hand people superpowers. He didn't call it an upgrade or a treatment, he called it Jesus-level miracles. In May 2026, Elon said this about Neuralink, quote, "Restoring control of people who are tetraplegics and restoring sight are pretty big deals. They're sort of what I might call Jesus-level technologies. I mean miracles in the scientific sense." He also said the chip could eventually give blind people, quote, "perhaps superhuman vision." Jesus-level miracles. That's quite the claim to make about your own company. So I decided I would look into what Neuralink actually has right now and see whether any of this sounds possible, because restoring sight to a blind person or mobility to a paralyzed person would genuinely qualify as a miracle, in my opinion. Neuralink has two products. The first one is called TELEPATHY, and the goal of this is to give independence back to people living with paralysis. There's a part of your brain called the motor cortex that fires every time you decide to move. If your spine is severed, that part still works perfectly, but the signal has nowhere to go. Telepathy reads those signals and sends them to a machine instead, so a paralyzed person thinks about moving and the machine moves. It's currently in 21 people who are using it to browse the internet, play games, and operate robotic arms with their thoughts. Elon has also talked about pairing this with Tesla's Optimus robot limbs, which would be the path to giving someone their full mobility back for real. The second product is BLINDSIGHT, and this one goes after something far more ambitious. The goal is to restore sight to people who have lost both their eyes and their optic nerve, including people who have been blind since the day they were born. Now think about that, because giving vision to someone who has never seen anything before in their life is about as big as a claim as you can possibly make. Here's how it's supposed to work. A camera mounted on a pair of glasses captures the scene in front of you. A processor then turns it into signals, and those signals get sent to a chip sitting in the part of your brain that handles vision, which the chip stimulates directly. You perceive light and shapes without using your eyes at all. It's already working in monkeys, the FDA has fast-tracked it, and Neuralink says the first human patient will get one by the end of 2026. The picture would be rough at first. Elon said the early versions would be low resolution. In his words, quote, like Atari graphics. Early patients are expected to see a handful of white dots on a blue background, which then get mapped out by the patient telling the team where they saw each light. Here's the question that actually matters for grading this. When does it get good? He's never said. There's no date attached to human level vision anywhere. He just says eventually. Neuralink's hardware roadmap goes from around 1,000 electrodes today to about 3,000 and talk of plenty more down the line, but there's no timeline attached to any of it. But here's the thing. Researchers at the University of Washington ran a computational model on an implant exactly like this one and concluded it's unlikely, if not borderline impossible, to ever exceed normal human vision, because the whole idea rests on a flawed assumption that cramming in more electrodes automatically produces sharper sight. The brain doesn't seem to work like a screen. So here's where I land on this one, and it's the closest call of the entire video. Controlling machines with a brain implant is entirely possible, and it's happening right now in 21 people. This means that restoring movement to paralyzed people is entirely possible. Now, restoring some level of sight to a blind person is also entirely possible. It has real trials and real results in animals behind it. Is it going to hand out superhuman abilities and Jesus-level miracles? Obviously not. That's over the top, and that's classic Elon BS. There's a lot of truth to the core claim though, which is why restoring vision to the blind and mobility to the paralyzed lands in C tier for me. It's not really a lie. We're not quite there yet, and your vision is going to suck, but at least you'll see something, and I think that is truly a miracle. I think it's pretty cool, and as much as I'm not an Elon Musk fan, in this case, maybe he did do something right for once. Personally, I still don't want the implant, though if I was paralyzed, I probably would take it. The superhuman vision talk is a different story, and that one has to go higher up on the board. Vision better than a normal human eye, seeing wavelengths that nobody could see, that's some full-on transhumanist type stuff that I'm personally not okay with, and the technology is nowhere close to it anyways. There's no timeline on it at all, there's no demonstration, the researchers who actually modeled it say the premise is totally wrong. It's a fancy claim that could be technically possible someday, but there's no way to say when, which makes it exactly the kind of thing that sells an investment without ever being provable. However, the lie is that this is going to be producing superhuman level vision and Jesus level miracles. This half goes into A tier, but restoring some level of sight to the blind is another C tier promise. It is actually totally possible. However, the next one is a little bit different. You see, Elon's been telling the entire world that machines smarter than every human alive are going to be showing up by the end of this year, 2026, and he's going to be the one who brings them in. On January 4th, 2026, Elon Musk posted two sentences on X. The first one, quote, "We have entered the singularity." And the second one, 2026 is the year of the singularity. Guys, we're already living in the days of the singularity. It's happened. Thank God Elon is here. No way he would ever make something like that up, right? First, quick explainer for anyone who hasn't heard of the term. The singularity is the theoretical moment when AI gets smart enough to start improving itself. Once that happens, it upgrades its own intelligence over and over again until it blows past human beings and becomes the dominant species on Earth, if you could call them a species. A week later at Davos, Elon Musk doubled down and added a timeline. Quote, "At the rate which AI is progressing, we might have AI that is smarter than any human by the end of this year and no later than the end of next year." He's talking about 2027. To make it even more insane, he added that by 2030 or 2031, AI will be smarter than all of humanity collectively. Now, Elon's not the only guy making these claims. In March 2026, Jensen Huang from Nvidia went on a podcast and said, quote, "I think it's now. I think we've reached AGI." Sam Altman and Dario Amodei both say it's arriving within the next couple of years. Notice the pattern here? Because every single one of these guys benefits enormously in terms of their company's stock price by saying this kind of stuff. As for Elon, we've covered his track record on this channel many times before. So in case this is your first video, here's a quick reminder. He's been announcing that AGI is 1 year away every year since 2023, and clearly it hasn't shown up yet. He keeps getting away with it because the media refuses to call him out. No one ever says a word about his lies, and he just keeps getting richer and richer. The thing is, Elon can read the same research the rest of us can. He's not a dumb guy, he runs his companies in a very clever way, so he knows exactly what he's doing when he says this stuff. Here's where I weigh in on the concept of AGI and the singularity. I don't think it's coming. Not this year, not in 2031, and in my opinion, not ever, and definitely not with the technology we have right now. Here's why. What everyone calls AI today is a large language model, and a large language model is a pattern matcher. You feed it an enormous pile of text, it learns which words tend to follow which other words, and then it predicts the next word over and over again. That's the whole trick. There's no reasoning happening in there. Just matching against patterns it has seen already, which is exactly why it falls apart the moment you hand it something genuinely new that wasn't in its training data. Scaling doesn't fix that. Hook your fridge up to 1,000 mega data centers and it isn't going to wake up and start having thoughts. A pattern matcher with more compute behind it is just a faster pattern matcher. We also know that the scaling has already hit a wall. Back in November 2024, TechCrunch reported that the scaling laws were showing diminishing returns and AI labs were being forced to change course. By September 2025, The Economist was writing about investor enthusiasm cooling as these models fell short of their promise to become digital gods, making the model bigger stop delivering the leaps that everyone was counting on. Then there's Apple. Their own machine learning researchers published a paper called The Illusion of Thinking, where they tested the so-called reasoning models on puzzles that got progressively harder. What they found is that these models are doing pattern matching, and once a problem got complex enough, they don't just perform worse, they collapse completely. Now here's the part that really gets me. As the problems got harder, the models put in less effort, even when they had plenty of room left to think. A human being digs in when a problem gets tough, but these models just give up. That's what's sitting at the center of the trillion-dollar hype machine. We call it artificial intelligence, so people naturally assume it's intelligent and getting smarter every year. It's a pattern matching machine that makes constant mistakes and can't reason its way through anything that it hasn't already seen. And building more data centers doesn't change what it fundamentally is. So this one goes in the S tier. He's announced that the biggest event in history of our species has already happened in January with no evidence behind it and no way for anyone to check him. The only thing that reliably changes every time he says this is how much his companies are actually worth. Okay guys, now it's time for what's most likely the craziest thing in the entire video. In May 2026, at his Starbase launch site, with a SpaceX share offering just around the corner, Elon laid out what his rocket company is really building towards. Quote, launching a constellation of 1 million satellites that operate as orbital data centers is a first step towards becoming a KARDASHEV Type 2 civilization, one that can harness the sun's full power while supporting AI-driven applications for billions of people today and ensuring humanity's multi-planetary future. Boy, oh boy, that's quite the claim. Now first, let me break down what the KARDASHEV scale is, because most people have never heard of it. It's how scientists rank a civilization based on how much energy it can capture and use. A Type 1 civilization harnesses all the energy available on its home planet. A Type 2 harnesses the entire output of its star, meaning that some kind of structure wrapped around the sun catching everything it produces. Think Dyson sphere. Humanity currently sits at a level of 0.73 on that scale. And before you think that sounds pretty good, you need to know one thing about how the scale works. It isn't linear. Every 0.1 step is 10 times more energy than the step before it. So 0.73 doesn't mean we're 3/4 of the way to Type 1. Getting from where we are now to Type 1 means producing 500 times more energy than the entire human race produces today. And that's just the first rung on the ladder. To reach the Type 2 civilization that Elon Musk is talking about, you'd need roughly 19 trillion times more energy than we currently produce. Now, let's do the math for him, because apparently he's not too good at that. One quick thing first. Since we're about to talk in kilowatts, a kilowatt isn't an amount of energy, it's a rate. The same way horsepower tells you how hard an engine is pushing. So when I say something runs at 5 kilowatts, it means it's pumping out 5 kilowatts constantly around the clock. Okay, a Starlink satellite's solar panels generate around 5 kilowatts. The average home runs at around 1 kilowatt. So one Starlink satellite makes about as much power as 5 households use. Let's be extremely generous to Elon and say that these new orbital data center satellites are 20 times bigger, so 100 kilowatts each. Multiply that by 1 million satellites and the entire constellation produces 100 gigawatts. Humanity currently runs on 20,000 gigawatts. So this million satellite mega constellation, which is supposed to be the first step towards harnessing the full power of the sun, would generate about half of 1% of the energy we already use down here right now. So here's what that would do to our score. We're at 0.7301 today. Get all million of those satellites into orbit, and we move to 0.7303. It changes the 4th decimal place on the KARDASHEV scale. Now that's assuming you could even launch them, which you can't. If they were normal Starlink size, you'd need around 10,000 Starship launches. Since we just made them 20 times bigger, you're realistically looking at over 100,000 launches. Starship is still in its testing phase, and several of those tests ended in giant explosions. Guys, he didn't just say this casually either. He put this claim into SpaceX's IPO application to the Securities and Exchange Commission. This isn't something he blurted out on a podcast. This is a legitimate claim sitting in his own company's paperwork. He filed this with the US government to sell shares to investors. Forbes ran it past a securities lawyer who said the SEC should be looking hard at whether a claim like that misleads the people buying the stock. The offering went through anyways, and it made Elon Musk the world's first trillionaire. Dressing up science fiction in sexy science talk to get geeks and naive investors excited is a scam, and this is the most obvious one on the entire list. He's attached no time frame to any of this. Scientists say centuries, but to me, KARDASHEV Type 2 civilization is far, far off in humanity's future. So far off that it's a complete pipe dream. SpaceX probably won't even exist in 50 years, never mind being the company that turns humanity into a galactic civilization. This is a total joke. This lie is so insane that I can't even continue the video anymore, guys. I'm broken. Elon's done it to me again. Time to go take a cold shower right now before my head explodes. Now guys, there's been plenty more Elon Musk lies this year alone that I didn't have time to fit into this video. It's just getting a bit too long. So hit subscribe if you want to see part 2, and please hype the video on the YouTube app if you can. That's the only way that YouTube really pushes these videos out to people. It would mean a lot to me. While you're at it, drop me a comment and let me know the most ridiculous Elon Musk claim you've ever heard. I want to hear what you guys think because I'm going to be including some of that stuff in my next video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Making this video was a lot of fun and I can't wait for part 2. See you later. Peace.